Welcome to That Annuity Show, the podcast that will make you an expert in explaining annuities to your clients. Give us 30 minutes each week and we'll shave hours from your client presentations. Now, here's your host, Paul Tyler.
Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of That Annuity Show. And we are broadcasting from some surprising locations today. Ramsey, you're still in Atlanta, correct?
That's right. Glad to be here.
Same place. Will, Mark, and I are actually, in the office in different locations. Will, how does it feel to be back in the office?
It feels great. It's good to be back. It's been a long ride, 15 months or so. So
yeah,
good to be back.
Mark, it's interesting. We did a lot from our homes, right, over the last 19 months.
We did,
whatever
but it's great to be back at the same time.
Yeah. So it's interesting process to sort of get everyone, reoriented to whatever this new world is. And I do have a feeling it's not going to be what it was. It's going to be something different, and we'll see. But we want to welcome a terrific guest today who's going to have perspectives on many aspects, from corporate culture to product to distribution to international markets, regulation, and how we speak with consumers. And I want to introduce to all of you, if you don't know him, Harry Stout. Harry, welcome.
Paul, it's great to be with you and the team today.
Yeah, well, Harry, I'm so glad we connected. I think you reached out to me with some work you're doing, and which we'll talk about. I'll tease your books a little bit for listeners. The Financial Verse, just a great set of books on, as you described, one of the subtitles, a common sense approach for your money. But I think it's good for advisors, good for consumers. I think it's good for people at carriers who've got to explain a lot of these complicated products. But before we get there, can you just give people sort of walk people through your career, just so we kind of get a sense of the insight you're going to bring to the table today?
Well, yeah, Paul, I've been in the U.S. annuity business probably for over 25 years. I started out in the early 90s selling fixed annuities at 12%, worked through the indexed annuity wars, and then I took over a company, Fidelity and Guarantee Life, which was in pretty bad financial shape, and put together a 10-year run there where we brought the company along and grew it substantially in the life insurance and in the annuity business. We were one of the core annuity players in the independent agent space and grew that. I left F&G Life and moved on to ING, now Voya, and at that situation with Voya, I ran the U.S. retail annuity group, variable, fixed, and all of the annuity products for that organization. And then I moved on to Australia, and I ran ING's financial. I was the CEO of their financial services business in Australia, and that business is focused on primarily on the superannuation space and life insurance. And we can talk more about that and what superannuation is, and how the Australian market. I think there's a lot there that could reflect where the U.S. market could go. And I've been involved since I returned back to the U.S. I've been on some boards of distribution organizations, and for the last 2 years, I made a change and started writing personal finance books as part of what I call my fulfilling stage, giving back my 35 years of experience to the industry. And I have created something called the Financial Verse. I've got 4 books published. My 5th comes out in September, and I'm really focused on improving the education of consumers. And when we look in our country, as we were talking the other day, we spend more time in our mandate more training and education to drive a car in our country than we do to drive money or manage money. Only 19 states today have any sort of requirement for a student to take a personal finance course before they graduate high school. So we have a true financial literacy, financial education problem, and actually we find it at all ages. So my background is broad: life insurance, annuities, investments, general insurance, and kind of been there, seen a lot, but as we were talking earlier with Will, the environment changes and continues to change. A lot happening and a lot more that we're all going to have to deal with.
Hey, this is a tremendous opportunity to have you on this show. So we probably have 5 different topics that we want to get your insight in. I think, why don't we start with Australia first? Because I know people have looked at Australia and said, look at the change. Look at what the regulation did to the business. Look at how it changed how it is. Some people think it was great. Other people think it was not so good if you were in different parts of the business. Tell us what happened, and what kind of lessons can we possibly pull from it, given the regulatory change that we may very well go through over the next 4 years.
Sure, I'll give you a thumbnail. If you look to the early 90s, effectively Australia privatized Social Security. So for every worker who is in any company, the employer today is mandated to make a contribution. I believe it's up to 12% today of their salary that goes into a fund for them. It's open architecture. That employee can choose whichever provider they seek. And as a result, I think it's the 4th largest pot of retirement money in the United States. But I ran the superannuation business there and a life insurance business there. And one of the things that Australia did over the years has been through a lot of compensation reform. And Will, this will be a very interesting lesson, for you if you see what's going on. But effectively what happened is the industry moved from heaped commissions to capped commissions to trailers, and lastly to fees. Now, life insurance is a little different. We'll leave that off to the side, but that's the journey that the industry went on. And again, one of the primary objections that regulators have around the world and consumer advocates have is the feeling that upfront heaped commissions are by definition inappropriate for the consumer. And I think we can have a great conversation about that, but in my view, that's not necessarily the case at all, because in many cases, do you pay a 6% upfront commission or 1% a year for the next 10 or 15 years? It might be to the consumer's benefit to take that upfront commission. So a lot of lessons, a lot of change. The other thing Australia did was move from 2 licensing systems to 1. In the U.S., we have a bifurcated system. We have insurance licenses. We have investment licenses or qualifications. And so Australia made the decision to go to 1. And when that happened, about 15% of the producers in the country got out of the business. And there was significant change in how the business was constituted. Actually, corporations came in, took over distribution groups because of the need for funding to make the change to the 1 licensing system. So I think there are some lessons to be learned from that. But here in the U.S., you can see that some of that journey we've been on in particular the last 10 years.
Hey, Harry, on that topic, fascinating to kind of learn or use Australia as a test case potentially for what we may see. So that consolidation of securities licensure and insurance licensure, you said that caused some drop out of 15%. What were the other impacts, and was it received well by the industry, and then also did it help folks with the ability to offer multiple products like in a best interest environment?
That's a very broad question, Will. I think it started a journey to improve the quality of the advice given to the consumer. It also required companies to have a product shelf Many of the broker dealers will have their product shelved of those companies that they offer today here in the U.S. In the Australia, same thing. It also gave rise to some organizations that would review and approve products. There would be a product score for each product you'd have on your shelf. So there are organizations that review those products and give you a score. So there was a justification for selling or offering that particular investment product. There was a score for it. There was organizations that gave those scorings and so on. So what I'd say is it started a journey. Now, there's been 3 or 4 instances of reform along the way to improve the quality of education that the advisor had, the amount of compensation that they receive, the type of advice they give, also concerns about fees. An example would be today consumers have the right to turn off fees if they feel as though they're not getting service from the advisor. Now, if we did that in the U.S., that would be interesting, wouldn't it? But the consumer was empowered more. So I think it's a journey that people are trying to get to have the right mix of regulation that goes along to deliver the best value to the consumer. So, but the changes that have been made there are if you took that to the U.S. market, they would be very radical changes. Radical changes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know that we all talked a lot about the changing regulatory environment that we're confronted with right now, which is significant. But you're right. I think that introducing that type of reform would be, I'll use your word, radical.
No, I think it would be. And here in the U.S., I think if I look at it, I was talking to Paul about this, if you look at regulation, I think maybe we need a more enlightened form of regulation in the U.S. And here we are, over the next 10 years, you're looking at a retirement income crisis for so many consumers. There's no doubt about that. You're going to see it. You see it in the press today. You see it all over. People are concerned about having enough income so they won't outlive that income. And yet, are we creating a set of regulations that facilitate delivery of products to people? I'll give you 2 great examples. One is guarantee funds. There's a gag order, and I don't know, I think it's at least 10 states where you can't mention a guarantee fund as part of the sales process. Now, in my books, I write about the consumer needs to understand the guarantee fund in place in their state, and I take them to the websites and what they should look at. But that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Another one, which is maybe a little bit more something that I think really needs to be considered, why can't an insurance-only agent who sells an indexed annuity sell a buffered annuity with a 5, 10, or 15% loss potential? Because that's ultimately a better economic bargain, I believe, in the current environment for the consumer. Why can't we make some of those changes so that we can improve the number of people that are putting retirement solutions into their financial plans? It's for their benefit, because, and this last one, I know this last one, you guys will all laugh at me, I think, on this last one, but hey, look, the government can't be the longevity insurer of last resort, the health insurer of last resort, the catastrophe insurer of last resort. Our government at the state and federal level doesn't have the resources to do all those things. So we need private sector solutions. And these are really, really important for people, and it changes lives. But our regulation is, I think, stuck. It needs to be enlightened more. I mean, these folks work hard. I mean, you know that, Will, from your dealings with various state insurance departments. These people work hard. I've been in them. You've been in them. They're hardworking people. But maybe we need to sit down and rethink how we approach this to deliver better outcomes for the consumer and their situation.
Yeah, I agree with you, Harry. I think it's been a challenge,
Mark.
and there is so many competing regulations. So, like we talked about earlier before the show, overlapping and to a certain extent applicable to certain spaces where people might be operating in or providing advice, and so it makes it very complicated. But you're right. I think the end result is delivering the right products to individuals that really can benefit from them. And sometimes I think we get lost in it along the way in trying to accomplish that.
If you thought about it, I mean, annuities are not high in cholesterol. They're not fattening. They're not a carcinogen. They basically properly presented and positioned, they help people secure their financial futures. And I've said this for years. I mean, there's what we sell, or what the industry sells, is of value to consumers. We sell insurance. It's not, we sell insurance products, and these are good. And I think there's a way to approach this that could be focused more on delivering value to the consumer. That's just my thought.
Hey, I have another question, shifting gears quickly. Why do you suppose it is that less than half the states mandate some type of financial training for folks before they graduate high school? I think that's a fascinating statistic. Well, less than half, I thought.
Yeah, if you actually, it's only 19 states. It's terrible. I mean, if you go back 10 years, Will, it's even less than that. And that's one of the problems I think we have. Financial education has not been given, and personal financial literacy, a high enough priority. By the way, it's not only like that in the U.S. I was on a podcast in the U.K. They're dealing with the same issues in the U.K. They've mandated that schools have to provide certain training, but they don't. So, but it has to be a higher priority because as you talk to consumers, let's look at the consumers that we're selling annuities to in our industry. So many of those people really don't understand their key financial risks. They don't understand what their lives are going to look like, their financial life looks like, and they need to be educated about those risks, how these products fit. I'll give you a very simple example. Most people don't realize that Social Security is designed to provide 40% of their pre-retirement earnings in a benefit. 40%. And if people could just focus on the 40%, they can't live on that. And so it begins to get the conversation going with respect to lifetime income and protected lifetime income. But there's no doubt we have a personal financial literacy problem in our country. People need to be educated. But I've been doing this for the last several years, out on national podcasts, writing articles all over, and it's like selling financial broccoli. I mean, it's really, it is, and I think this was coined by Kiplinger, I think, but it is financial broccoli. Some people just, they don't want that broccoli, and yet they need it. It's essential for life, in my view.
Yeah. So, hey, Mark, you had a question.
Yeah, I guess, Harry, over the years, there's been a lot of focus on trying to educate the consumer, the Alliance for Lifetime Income, a lot of articles that are out there, a lot of internet sources that are out there. What do you think is the underlying challenge in terms of getting more education out there? And I understand, it's not introduced in many of the states in schools, but beyond that, what can we do to get more information out there about the products?
I think it's attention span. There are a couple different studies out there, one by Northwestern Mutual, another by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Average consumer spends about 2 to 3 minutes a day managing their money and learning. 2.5 hours on social media, 3 minutes on Money Matters. So I think we have an attention span issue. And we need to focus on ways of getting this information so people have better habits. I've been pushing, and I've got a book coming out in the fall called Good Money Habits in 17 Minutes a Day. Give me, 2 hours a month, 17 minutes a day. I'll help you. Here's some things you should do. Let people see podcasts. Let people look at various websites. Let them look on Google, YouTube channels. There are various things that are there. We need to. People have to spend more time and focus more time. Now, some of that's happening, but for a lot of other people, they're not. And they didn't get the training in school. They did not get it from their parents because their parents didn't have the training. So I think it's we've got to just dedicate time to doing this. And the best thing we can all do is help, have our children get some education in this area. And what by children, and I don't mean this in a terrible way, in my books I talk about the journey to 30. So I think by age, adolescence extends to age 30. In our country, we've extended it from age 14 to 30, and I call that the adulting stage of life. And in that adulting stage, we really have to help educate folks so they get some of these basic knowledge. But Mark, it's attention span. It's priority and attention span, in my view.
Yeah, Harry, you're so right about the adulting. I mean, I'm kind of living this with my youngest daughter right now, who decided that we got our car for school. She decides to be a one of these delivery drivers with the apps, right? I won't name the company, but she gets the payment. I'm like, well, how much are you really earning? Well, I'm not sure. How do I figure this out? Well, how much revenue how much did you get? What are you getting after taxes? What do we pay for? Oh, how much it costs to run a car? I don't know. So I agree, Harry. We miss, there's such a gap in education around how do you manage, how do you budget, right? So I wholeheartedly agree. We're missing an opportunity here with kids.
So let's roll that forward to someone who doesn't have that education, turning age 60, and they need lifetime income. And I think the studies after study indicate that they really need education to understand their risk, what solutions are out there that they could potentially purchase, and then finding a trusted advisor who can take the time to explain that to them and will position them in the most appropriate or suitable product that's there. So we've got an issue there, and that's one of the things that I believe in. That's why I created the Financial Verse, which is all about my books, because I believe that we need to do more to educate from the bottom up in terms of helping consumers be better educated, and more from the top down. Because I think financial professionals, insurance-only agents, investment professionals, they really need to spend more time studying annuities and really understanding how they apply versus just I think that's real important, because again, we're selling an insurance product that has a lot of intrinsic value, but and there are also restrictions, there are also constraints to these products, but folks aren't really spending the time to study them as much as possible, in my view.
So one of the things that I've sort of observed in my own journey with, I love what you're doing. This is super important. Financial education is an important deficit that we need to close here in this country. At a certain point, there's this trade-off between how much are folks really going to be able to learn in a time frame during which they need to actually have made a decision. So it's like, how do you think about advising people on that balance? And a lot of bridging that gap is actually, again, finding that trusted advisor so they can go ahead and make the leap. I mean, how much of the education process is just about getting enough awareness that, okay, I don't understand everything, but I actually have to make a move here, whether on my own or with an advisor?
Ramsey, I'll send you the $20 for asking that question later, but you'll see why. I think that the issue we have in our society is people feel uncomfortable going to an advisor. They don't want to appear dumb. They don't want to feel as though they can't answer the right question. So I think what we need to do is provide a base level of education for people so that they feel comfortable then reaching out for advice. And that's my positioning. I think you need to, we get life coaches all the time, for different things that we do. Everything from video gaming to be a better video gamer, to our golf swing, to any particular activity that we have. But when it comes to a money coach or someone who helps us with our money, I think we really, many people are reluctant to do that because they don't want to appear uneducated or just don't know the right questions to ask. So I think there's a base level of education that we can provide to people about what their life looks like. Here's what your financial life's likely going to be. Here are the stages you're going to go through. Here are the key challenges you're going to have. And by the way, here are some resources for you to seek out. Here's a general insurance agent. Here's a life insurance agent. Here's a financial planner. Here's an investment advisor. I think we just need to help people feel more comfortable reaching out for those resources. And so I believe that's a way to get where we need to be.
Harry, going back to
Go ahead, Mark.
Harry, going back to Australia, with all the changes that you saw regulatory-wise, in terms of the shift of products and the way compensation was structured, after that all evolved, what was the end result that you saw in terms of the investor? Did more people come in prepared for retirement as a result? Did more people get more diversified products? Did the product scope change much?
I think the biggest change was in the advice world in terms of different types of advice given to people. and also the economics of various products, fees charged changed, more of a focus on performance. When you have such a large amount of retirement dollars, questions always come up where are the fees being charged for services appropriate? So I think fees have been and will be reduced. Advice was reformed again, but and the system, I think, I haven't seen a study that tells you that it's more effective, that it's delivering better results for people, because the Australians have the same challenge that we have here in the U.S. With defined contribution plans. You just don't know the income that's going to be generated from those plans in an appropriate way. We've got the 401k changes here with the Secure Act, and we're starting to tell people, here's what your savings will generate in income. I think that's still a challenge, and I think Australians are starting to realize they need to save more to get where they need to be, and that's a whole separate conversation we can have about what that should look like. But we have the same problem here in the U.S. You talk to people and they say, oh, I am great. I got $100,000 saved. I'm going to retire in 10 years. I'm going to be fine. But when you take a look to see what that 100,000 converts into income, they're in desperate shape. And so that would be my observation, Mark.
Yeah, Harry, change in this business rarely happens all at once, right? It's gradual, and we've seen, agents make that change over time. A lot of agents, you think back to when FIs came on the scene, a lot of advisors gave up their Series 6 or their Series 7. Okay, the last 10 years, you've seen a lot of FI agents start their own RIA or join as an IAR. What do you think just inertia where will inertia pull advisors over the next, 5 years here in the U.S.?
I think that one of the key issues we have in our country has been political. If you look at the Republican administration, they took regulation one way. Now we have a Democratic administration, they're taking it at another. I kind of think that, in my view, that moving towards an RIA protection qualification for producers is where the future is. And what I mean by that is being able to sell protection products, and then being in an RIA space for asset-based and accumulation products. I kind of think that's where we're headed. Now, there's a lot of potholes there. Cash value life insurance, where does it fall? Is it in the protection space or is it in the fiduciary space? So I think that, to me, that's where we're headed. We seem to be going left, right to get there. But that's kind of, I think, where the world's going to be. And that means a lot, because that changes how insurance marketing organizations operate, how they're structured, the services they provide, and training changes. But I kind of see that as the path we're moving towards. But again, based on the political circumstances, we go left, then right, and it's hard. I mean, it's hard for producers, financial professionals. It's hard for carriers. I mean, how do you prepare for these left and right kind of changes? It's very hard. But my concern is, overall, we've got a consumer over the next 10 years who really needs what we have to sell and what we have to offer, the solutions we have. They really need them. And as you all know, I mean, we've got 16.5% of the population over age 65, and we have the most people turning age 65 over the next 3 years. And by 2030, all the boomers are over age 65. There's a large number of people that are looking for retirement solutions, and annuities are a tool that fits in there. So, Paul, that's my gut as to the direction that we're headed.
Okay, RILAs. Which market will impact more, traditional FIA producers, or I was in the broker-dealer space and I was selling VAs, and I'm licensed and this is a great solution for me?
Well, I think let's step back for a second. One of the reasons that RILA's positioned so well right now, in my view, is the economic situation that we're in with interest rates and the equity markets. So, of the products being offered in the annuity space, MYGAs and RILAs are probably the two best positioned right now. Now, Federal Reserve interest rates probably won't change. The Fed won't change a lot. They're saying until 23, late 22 and into 23. And even if they change there, will they change so much that it's going to change the economics of the world? So I think RILA is a great product because you've got increased upside for limited downside. And for so many equity investors, it protects their downside. It gives them maybe a turn to earn, a chance to earn better upside. Now, there is, Paul, one great fly in the ointment as far as I'm concerned, and that is I don't understand why insurance-only professionals can't sell a RILA or I'll call it a buffered annuity, because an indexed annuity with a different floor to it is a buffered annuity, and that would be a better consumer. But again, we got licensing and regulatory issues because there's the potential for loss on a RILA, whereas there's not potential for loss on a fixed indexed annuity. But I kind of think that should be changed because you got far more insurance-only agents who could reach consumers with a better offering. But that's my own personal hallucination. But we'll have to see what goes on there.
Yeah, Harry, I hear your point loud and clear, and I think that's been that debate's been going on for some time. In that distinction that we make between the products that registered reps or registered individuals can sell, and I think it's been a fine line, especially with FIAs, and I do agree with you though that it's what we're doing by creating that wall is limiting what individuals could sell and potentially what consumers may need or want. So it's harming consumers.
If you look at what happened with long-term care premiums being able to be, being able to take from an annuity product, we've got the special private letter rulings that allow fees to be taken from annuity products to address the RIA community in a positive way. You think maybe there's a way to get there, because those were changes that were made that were in the best interest of the consumer in my mind. So I think we ought to be able to move those forward. That'd be my take, but it'll take effort.
Yeah, I think there's going to be conversations that continue on that.
So I wanted to kick back on a couple of things that we had talked about. So just on the superannuation funds, I just want to make sure I'm sort of totally clear on the structure. So it sounds like it is an involuntary DC plan. Are there any guarantees built into it, or it's simply there's a cut off the top, employers have to put it in, you get to choose where the money goes, but there's no opt out?
No, the money stays, and there are no guarantees. Ramsey, there are no guarantees, and so it's an investment. It's a strict, in U.S. parlance it's a security. You have risk of downside loss, but then one of the issues you have is even if you put your money away into a superannuation fund, there's no guarantee of the income that comes out the other end. That's something you have to work on, and you have to work through. And that's our problem today with 401k plans. I mean, there's no guarantee of the income that's going to come out of the other end here on the U.S. And I think people are just starting to realize how important that is. I mean, let's face it, one of the major trends we're seeing in the annuity business in the U.S. right now is the move from accumulation to decumulation, if you will, from accumulating assets to payout. And look at all the different structures that are being brought into the industry, and not only by the insurance industry, but you see the investment firms doing the same thing. We'll help you pay out what you've accumulated. We'll give you a structure that you can work with, not guaranteed like insurance products, but another structure. So I think that's one of the key issues. And one of the things, Ramsey, that the Australian government's been looking to do is continually increase the percentage that has to be put away, so potentially guarantees a better income for the individual when they retire. And same thing here in the U.S., right? We find out we don't have enough money in defined benefit plans. Companies are not fully funded, or they made actuarial errors that they didn't fund the plan as much as they could have, and the benefits can't be paid, or there's not enough there to pay the benefits. So the problems are the same. But I think that's what the great thing about annuities is protected lifetime income. You can't get it anywhere in here in the U.S. other than if you have a pension plan or Social Security, and annuities are positioned very well indeed.
Yeah, well, Harry, this has been terrific, but I'd like to just talk a little bit more about the books you've written. Now, I've got I probably should be a CFA if I'm going to read this stuff, right?
No, not at all. And
really,
what I've done is this: the financial verse books, I've written them all at and I've done this intentionally, 10th grade level, so that they can be written by they can be read by a consumer or by an agent. They're equally equal to both audiences. So 10th grade level, about 2-hour reads, and I try to talk to people, not at them, and try to explain the world in a reasonable way for everyone to understand. One of the difficulties, Paul, and I've written a book on annuities called Today's Annuities, a tool for protected lifetime income. I think there are very few books you can go to that give you a summary of the annuity industry and an objective plus and pros and cons of various products. It's just not available. That's what I've tried to do, and in presenting them. And I've taken 35 years of experience and tried to cut it down to about 140 pages, which is interesting, written in a way that people can understand. And again, going back to a question that Mark asked earlier, you just got to get people to spend a little bit of time improving their financial knowledge and education. So I have books here. Some of the books are just basic financial planning for consumers. Here's your financial life. That's what the financial verse is, the financial life of someone. I go through the stages in their life: adulting, striving, and fulfilling. I lay out challenges that they're going to face, decisions they're potentially going to have to make, and tell them that, look, one of the things you should do is seek out the financial professional, the qualified, licensed individual to give you advice and counsel. But that's what I do with the financial verse, and we'll continue to do.
Well, this is great. And how long will it take me to read through one of these books?
A little over 2 hours.
2 hours.
In my latest book coming out in September, Good Money Habits in 17 Minutes a Day, about an hour and a half. And I've done that intentionally to address limited times, limited attention spans, and just to get people to spend a little bit of time improving their financial knowledge and skills.
Yeah. Hey, well, this has been great. Let me just kind of go around the horn. Mark, what other questions or thoughts do you have for Harry?
Yeah, I just think that the opportunity in front of us, as Harry mentioned, in the next 3 years are the most individuals turning age 65 that we've seen. That's just a huge opportunity and a huge opportunity for education. I think it's important that people understand the benefits these products bring and take advantage of what they can offer from a guaranteed structure.
Hey, great. Hey, Will, how about you?
Just a comment. I really appreciate all the work you're doing, Harry, now that you've had 35 years of experience and bring tremendous experience to bear. But on the front of financial literacy, I think it's so important. We talked a little bit today about, someone gets to 60 and then they're, and then they're going to become educated. That doesn't really work. Obviously, you need to be educated well before that. So please keep it up. I'll definitely check out your books, and I hope, Paul, we're going to put a place up where we can get them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Ramsey.
Thank you.
So I was just going to say that, as we talked about all the various different paths here, we talked about insurance products versus other ways to prepare for retirement. We talked about all sorts of things. At the end of the day, I think, the big hurdle is planning. Either you figure out how to do your own planning or you go find somebody to do it. The question I didn't get a chance to ask, and hopefully it's in one of your books, is, what is the checklist? Is there a checklist in one of your books about how to pick a financial planner? Because they're not all equally good, irrespective of what, the acronym they have behind their name.
Yeah, Ramsey, in certain situations, I do tell people where to. That's another great issue in life, right? We don't have one single database of life insurance agents that someone should just go onto the internet and find the agent that's right down the street that could help them with their life needs or their general insurance needs. The planning space has some better websites that give them potential planners in their area that are CFPs that are properly qualified. And but I try to drive folks to seek out those various sources. I try to give them resources to access URLs that they can go to, that they could seek to find people, and also talk to them about the great work in referrals. What are their friends doing? Do they know someone, and so on? So I try to emphasize that in my books. But again, I wish in many ways we just had one central place we could go to direct people. But again, our regulatory system gets in the way. For any particular household, you typically are going to need 3 or 4 advisors to help you through your journey. You're going to need a general insurance agent. You might need a long-term care agent. You'll need a life insurance agent. You need an investment advisor. You'll need a financial planner. Now, some rare individuals have multiple qualifications that can help you, but in reality, you've got to seek multiple sources to get your needs met.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Harry, this was great. And first of all, thanks for the contribution you've made to the business over the years. I was certainly the beneficiary at the company that worked at F&G for a period of time, and we certainly benefited from a lot of the strategies and relationships you put in place there. So it's interesting how our work passes from people to people, and eventually we all cross paths. Tell us, where can people find your books? Are they available on Amazon? We absolutely will put a link in the show notes as well.
Yes, you can get them directly from my website at www.financialverse.com. You can order them right from the website, or they're available on Amazon and all major national distributors in the country.
Excellent. All right. Well, Harry, hey, listen, thanks so much for your time. Hope to have you back here at some point in the future. And Will, Mark, Ramsey, thanks. Thanks to all our listeners.
Pleasure.
And listen, if you'd like to stay in touch with people like Harry and some of our guests, be sure to go to our website and sign up for our email. We're sending out an email right now about every 2 weeks. We're not going to fill your email box, but just so you can keep tabs of what everybody's doing. And Harry, hopefully we'll get you we'll get a nice stream of information so people can stay in touch with you there as well. So thanks for listening, and tune in again next week for another episode of That Annuity Show.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend us on iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information at thatannuityshow.com.